It's getting even better. Well, at least for us, but not for the GPU companies such as NVIDIA and AMD. This GPU, which we talked about a few days ago, is now under MSRP. That's right, under its MSRP. I never thought I would see the day that I would actually be able to say that. In fact, I even shaved my beard for today's video because I was so excited to finally see this GPU under MSRP. And this is still a really big GPU. This is the 6900 XT. Now, your mileage may vary. If you look online right now, they still are over MSRP in some places. What we covered in the last video was that at least the reference edition was at $999. That's the MSRP for the 6900 XT. And in fact, the other key factor, it's in stock. You could have basically have gone to the AMD site and bought it. It's probably popping up again. Nobody's really buying that GPU. But the really key thing here is that it's now in stock at under MSRP, and if you check out the little sale thing on this particular GPU, it's discounted about $1,050 from its last price. There's the regular version and the ultimate, which ironically is even cheaper. I don't know why. It's supposed to be better, it's supposed to be ultimate, but I remember seeing this particular GPU for over $2,000 last year. So this $1,050 is really just since the last price drop. That is a pretty incredible difference. I mean, how can you explain such a massive price drop? Now, certainly it almost seems a little bit disingenuous when a GPU drops by $1,050, and it's still technically the highest end GPU out now on the AMD side. In fact, the 6900 XT will even beat the RTX 3090 in some games, so it's not something that's old technology. That certainly makes you raise your eyebrow a little bit, because $1,050 is a huge amount to take off the GPU. That only shows you how inflated the pricing was. Priced pretty good is a Windows CD key. Today's video sponsor is going to be VIP-CDKdeals.com. Very simple process. You can get a Windows 10 Pro CD key and remember to use code CC20 for a nice discount. Now, from discussions that we've had before, we know that the fault isn't necessarily just Micro Center, because they're going to have to buy this GPU at inflated prices from the third-party AIBs, but somebody along that line certainly is going to be to blame. It was always my opinion that even though the AMD GPUs were really great this generation, the drivers were a big improvement over the last generation. For the most part, they're just pretty good GPUs. My biggest problem with them, and where I think AMD lost a huge amount of market share, where they could have gained it from NVIDIA during the worst drought moments of 2021, they overpriced their GPUs right out of the gate. I remember as soon as the RX 6000 GPUs came out from AMD, at first, the reference editions, the pricing seemed pretty good. I mean, we saw the 6900 XT at $999. Compared to the 3090, we thought it was almost a relative bargain, to be honest. And then we saw the 6800 XT, which in some cases will beat a 3080 at $649. The 3080 was already amazing at $699. So to get a GPU that's actually going to beat it for $50 less, we were extremely impressed. And then go further, you have the 6800 at $579. Sure, it's a little bit more expensive than the RTX 3070. Ray tracing support isn't really anywhere near what the NVIDIA GPUs are, but it performs better than an RTX 3070 in traditional rasterization. That price seemed to be pretty fair. The bang for the buck here was certainly the 6800 XT, which in many cases would match a 6900 XT for the very nice price of $649. So that's the history there. We were very happy with that. As soon as AMD released the AIB models, the third-party models like from PowerColor and all the GPUs that we see now like MSI and Asus, the pricing right out of the gate was absolutely atrocious. Like the pricing was really high immediately. I think they saw that they weren't going to be able to keep up with the demand with the production that they had, so they didn't even price it low. They just priced it extremely high, and they kept the reference editions at a low price, which not that many people were able to get anyway. Now, I'm sure AMD was also focused on their Ryzen chips. They're making their GPUs for, PlayStation 5, so they certainly have a lot on their plate, but the price that they set these AIB GPUs was absolutely ridiculous, and even worse, as 2021 went on, the prices seemed to get worse and worse. At one point, I remember seeing some 6900 XTs as high as $2,600, even at Micro Center. That is absolutely ridiculous. It was more than even any 3090 that you could find at the time, even though 3090 was also inflated due to cryptocurrency mining. So the result of this exorbitant pricing was that the GPUs stayed on the shelves. Month after month, I would walk into my local Micro Center and see the same 6900 XTs just sitting there. Most of them were at or over $2,000, and even when they started to come down, they were $1,800, $1,700. Nobody wanted to buy that compared to even the NVIDIA GPUs. Even when the prices are close, people are going to prefer NVIDIA anyway, just because of the history, and people tend to like it a little bit better with some of the features. But given that AMD is sort of a relative newcomer to the really high-end GPU market, it became a little bit funny when these 6900 XTs were priced so high. So that's why I say they lost a huge sort of market share and marketing opportunity here by not even pricing these GPUs fairly. In my opinion, I think they still could have priced them according to the market, of course, a little bit higher than you would expect. Nobody was really expecting after a while to get $649 for a 6800 XT. People expected they were going to be a little expensive, but not going up to $1,400 or $1,500. Even though we were in the middle of that GPU drought, it made no sense, and these GPUs stayed on the shelves. That's the biggest difference between the NVIDIA and AMD GPUs during the last year. Overpriced NVIDIA typically would even sell after a while. It's only been the last month or two that they've been staying on the shelves because the demand really dropped very, very hard during the last few months. But 2021, if you saw an overpriced NVIDIA GPU, even a 3080 Ti, some of the Asus models were extremely expensive, nearly the price or more of a 3090. These GPUs still sold out pretty quickly. AMD, on the other hand, stayed on the shelves. Even Micro Center, who would restrict you to 1 GPU per month, if you bought it there, you got 30 days. Now, AMD, they removed that restriction a few months ago, so you can buy literally as many as you want, or at least, reasonable amount. And then NVIDIA still stayed with that restriction, which has now been lifted. That's because I even asked one of the managers there. He said that they had so much AMD GPUs just piling up. Nobody was buying them, and I guess the price really wasn't going down fast enough. So now we're finally seeing these GPUs go down under MSRP. So certainly it's very, very interesting. Something else that's going to absolutely destroy the price of these GPUs, and of course NVIDIA included, even though NVIDIA certainly did sell a lot more in 2021, now that the demand is much, much lower, they're going through some of the same issues that AMD went through the last year, and they're going to have to drop prices very, very fast so they can sell these GPUs, because I'm seeing most of them actually stay in stock, like the 3090 Ti, nobody's buying that. Even the 3080, they've had to rapidly bring it under $1,000. It used to be over $1,200 for the 12 gigabyte versions. They've had to quickly bring those down. Demand simply is not there anymore, and AMD is going to have to bring down the price even lower. Now, it would be a lot better that instead of the 6900 XT getting cheaper, forget that for a second, if they actually produced or sold more 6800 XTs around the MSRP at $649 or so. I believe that's the price point that people are still open to getting a high-end GPU. $650 and below for like a 6800 XT or $699 for a 3080 still is basically the sweet spot to get a GPU. Even if the 6900 XT comes down to like $899 for its MSRP, people are still going to be kind of hesitant to get that because they're going to look at a 3080, and if they prefer NVIDIA, even though the 6900 XT performs better in many cases than the 3080, they're simply going to go for the NVIDIA GPU anyway, especially if they want to have superior ray tracing performance accompanied by DLSS and other NVIDIA technologies. So really the story here is that 6900 XT has to come down even more. Whenever the next generation is announced, I think not only are people not going to buy this current generation anywhere near these prices, they're likely going to have to come down by a significant margin for them to even be interesting. At that point, with new GPUs out, even a $650 6800 XT may not be something that people really want because so much time will have passed and you're going to have that new technology out. So if you're thinking of buying a 6900 XT, the pricing now seems pretty good in their MSRP, but keep in mind there's going to be a refresh coming out very, very soon, as well as the new generation of, the RTX 4000, and Intel's going to come out with GPUs, so it's very possible we're going to see these prices go down, and they're definitely going to have to if they want to sell the stock of GPUs even faster. That means that next generation, we're not likely to see as many GPUs flood the market from RTX 4000, for example, because there's going to be a lot of stock on the shelves of current GPUs. The only way they're going to get rid of those is by discounting them really heavily, especially with a new release on the horizon. So I would kind of hold off on buying this GPU for now because the price week after week is really going down pretty fast. I'm going to keep my eye on the price of the 6900 XT. Perhaps in a week or two, we'll see if it's gone down even further or if it's simply not selling at all at its current price. That way you guys can make a better informed decision. But overall, right now, probably wait. The new generation's coming out unless you get a really good deal on a GPU. Alright guys, so remember to subscribe, smash that like button, and I'll see you guys on the next video.